mean, which team have you? And welcome to CricketOMania. The question we're asking today is, should overseas players be included in Indian cricket? The question I will first address to Cricketwala. Go ahead.
I think so. Yeah. Actually, there's no ban, Govind, on foreign players.
Which itself is new. Somehow you always assume that these things are not allowed, not permitted. And so
yeah, on. I mean, there was a period when they were not allowed, but after that, it's been kind of lifted. But there's been no aggressive approach to get foreign players involved, which is strange because in the 50s and 60s, you had quite a few of the foreign players coming and playing there. Yeah. And actually, where England, West Indies, and Sri Lanka, these countries are concerned, the seasons don't clash. So those players are available.
Okay. But do we have the capability and the capacity to absorb players if they come in? And we'll come to the point about who and where and how and so on.
Absolutely. Look at the number of foreign players who come and play the IPL.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a domestic tournament, though it's not first-class cricket.
Yeah.
Here, I think where the need arises for me, and this is where I feel that this is a question which is important, is that whenever we do poorly overseas, we say, our guys should be playing there. We should play county cricket or Sheffield Shield in Australia or one of these tournaments. But why can't we import those players to play domestic cricket? Because the rub-off effect can be very similar.
Right. And we've got a lot of guests joining us, including Chandresh, Narayanan, former sports journalist, let's take a few comments first. Okay. So there is Ujjal who says, yes, there should be. It will raise the bar of standards of the budding cricketers and provide exposure as well. Ambarish says, why not? The number per team can be limited.
Yes. So the English county system used to have not more than 2 pros. They also went through this whole system of 3 or 4 overseas players in a team. Then they restricted it to 2 professional players, overseas professionals, so that homegrown talent would also get a chance. I think what's going to happen for domestic cricket if these foreign players and of good quality come in, you'll get more people going and watching these matches. Otherwise, spectatorship in India is only for international matches and largely for ODIs and famously for T20 matches. But outside of, I mean, I did the whole season last season.
So you're saying that the other benefit of doing this is that the quality of, not quality, the width of spectatorship.
The width will, and the quality of cricket, because your domestic players will rub shoulders with some of the better known players.
Right. Chandresh, Narayanan, what's your sense? Is it easy? Is it something that we can do quickly? I mean, we've got a whole domestic season starting shortly.
This is something which is, first of all, hello to Mr. Ayaz, Memon, and to you. Hi. I just wanted to say that this is good in theory, but when it actually comes into practice, it becomes difficult to manage, because I think we were one of the first ones in world cricket after England to introduce the concept of overseas players way back in the 60s. Mr. Memon will know that better than me, when we allowed 4 fast bowlers from West Indies to come and play in India after the unfortunate accident of Mr. Nari Contractor. But post that, what happened was there was a big lull, and then till 94, 95, we didn't have any overseas players coming and playing in India. Angus Fraser and Desmond Haynes being called to play for Wills 11, the Wills Trophy. What's happening nowadays is that you get a lot of these players who are not a regular in the national sides, who are traveling around the world playing 2020 cricket, but no one has the appetite anymore to go and actually play the longer format, the first class cricket, that is the lifeline of cricket. So what you will end up with having these players coming over is that you may not have the real cream coming and playing in the Ranji Trophy, and that may devalue the league for the tournament further. I would rather pitch in and say that we should look to introduce players, the top players from the associate countries, to come and play in each of the Ranji Trophy side, because then you'll get the best from the associate world playing, and that may help us in the long run.
Right. Okay. So we have another comment. Ayaz, Najib Khan says, absolutely. This used to happen in the 60s. Why not now? anything to add to the quality of cricket is welcome. I also want up to 5 players in the IPL team. That's what he says. Okay.
Well, he's mixed, so IPL is, of course, they've got a restriction of 4 players, and now 5 is the number which they're using in the ISL,
right,
which is in the football team. And of course, if you include the marquee players, then you have 6 foreigners playing there in football.
Right.
I think, I think Chandresh has a point, which I agree to an extent, not entirely. If you take players from associate countries, you're expanding or spreading the gospel of cricket wider. So hopefully those cricket like Afghanistan or UAE or some of these countries will get more engaged in the sport, and hopefully at some stage start playing at the highest level, more regularly.
Right.
So that's one objective. But to make your domestic cricket more robust, I don't think those players is necessarily the answer. Yes, from there, if you get very good talent, you can take them. But otherwise, you should look for. I know that there is a problem in getting players who are of high quality to come and play Ranji Trophy or Dilip Trophy when they can easily go and play a T20, the Big Bash in Australia. Now, you have to fight, because the Indian cricket system is very rich. There is money here.
Right.
The Mumbai Ranji Trophy team can afford to pay a fairly decent,
yeah, that's the question I was coming to. What's the inducement? I mean, first of all, do you need an inducement? And secondly, what could be the level of inducement?
The professional will not come without being paid well. Paid and paid well. But look at it this way, on an average, each cricket association, the 31 in India, is getting about anything between 26 to 33 crore per annum for development of the sport and infra and all that. Every year you don't build a new stadium.
Right.
So there is a corpus available. And you have to pay money, I mean, there is a transfer of professionals within India. So there are players from Bombay who've gone and played for MP, for UP, for railways as professionals. So I don't see any reason why you can't get an overseas professional to come and play here.
Right. So you're saying there's no conceptual problem, and I'm assuming therefore there's no regulatory challenge or hurdle either.
No, it's just that the itinerary has got more and more packed, the international cricket itinerary.
Okay.
So you have to find, not every player is involved in the IPL or in the Big Bash or in the Caribbean Premier League or whatever these T20 leagues. There are for instance, a lot of English players who may not be part of the England team. Their winters are off.
Right.
They're doing nothing in the winter.
Right. So, and we'll try and build a dream team very shortly. Chandresh, what's your sense? I mean, so would it be right to assume that there is no other hurdle to some of these players coming and playing in the, let's say, upcoming Ranji and Dilip trophies?
A few years ago, after the IPL started, the BCCI came in with a rule that in terms of overseas players, they can be allowed only in the IPL and not in any other domestic tournament of BCCI. And you found that there were only a couple of sides who actually made an attempt to bring in these overseas players when the rule was relaxed in the early part of 2000s, Maharashtra, Baroda, and Rajasthan. And apart from these sides, no one else made an attempt to go out and actually get overseas players playing in India. So I think in terms of the buy-in, it has to come in from the state associations. I agree with Mr. Memon that the state associations don't have any grounds for concern in terms of finances, but it's about the intent, whether they want to anger lobbies within the state associations, clubs that need to be assuaged, players that need to be selected, the local factors that need to be considered in terms of selection. Right here in Mumbai, where we have so many players. They'll all be up in arms if they were to think about 2 or 3 players being compulsorily played in the playing 11. So those are the kind of things that come in the way of a radical step like this being implemented at first-class level.
Yeah, but Chandresh, I think the answer to that is very simple. I mean, that's the same problem which exists in England in county cricket. I mean, the English guys could say, what about our youngsters? But, once they started introducing the pros in the early 60s, the system has, I mean, it was because of the pros that the English county system survived, English county cricket.
I think what Chandresh is saying that there may be natural resistance to the...
No, there will be natural resistance everywhere because there are so many clubs in Mumbai and youngsters want to get into the Mumbai team. But at the first class level, it's also a highly competitive and more a very prestigious tournament that you're fighting for. Now what has happened, the current system as it exists, there is no seduction. The top players from India don't play. So that needs to be corrected. Your top players must play enough domestic cricket.
How can that be mandated?
You have to make it mandatory because you have to have a fairly full home season calendar and not just pack it with T20 matches or ODI matches against touring teams. And the Ranji Trophy, they'll go and rest because they also need to rest. So Australia follows the system. Their domestic players have to play a lot of domestic cricket. So do the English cricketers. It's in India that we find that, you know, there's no compulsion.
Okay.
So you need to have your big stars playing. You need to have a couple of, I feel, overseas professionals coming in, especially fast bowlers and the like, so that they groom your youngsters also.
Right. Okay.
Rather than saying that we just go and play county cricket, we'll become a great team.
Okay. So Chandresh, suppose we were to conceptualize a couple of teams. What are the kind of players you think could add value at the Ranji level or the Tulip level?
I agree with Mr. Memon that, say, a top class batsman in the middle order and one fast bowler per side who will make a they'll make a big difference to the fortunes of Ranji Trophy sides. Imagine adding a fast bowler from England who's done well in the county season to, say, a Rajasthan, because they only have a Pankaj Singh who trundles away all day, and then if you get a real strike bowler coming into a Rajasthan side or say a Tamil Nadu side which is spin heavy, that will make a big difference to their fortunes in a Ranji season. I think, as I see, I think two players, if we were to ever allow overseas players, then I would see two players. One is a middle order batsman and a fast bowler will make a big difference to any state side in the Ranji Trophy.
Okay.
You know, I can think of some players, fast bowlers, yes, but I can think of, say, Graham Swan. He is quit English cricket, but he's not old. You know, you can get him here, lure him as a professional to come and play. And he's one of the bowlers with the finest clean action or cleanest actions. You need some of those guys to come and help our youngsters. Kevin Peterson, obviously, is playing the IPL,
Ayaz,
but
let
he will also play.
ask you a question which is a step back.
Yeah.
I mean, for those who decide the policy when it comes to these things,
Correct.
Do they or do they not see this as a logical progression to the next round of cricket playing, which could either be first class, T20, one days, and so on?
No, yes and no. It's like it's happened in the 50s and 60s in India, but it's not happening any longer.
Okay.
There was a time when it was not allowed at all. Now it's allowed, but nobody is taking that decision to move
so
ahead.
assuming it's allowed, it's possible, there's no other regulatory concern, all the inhibitions have been got around. Will people see this as a stepping stone, or that stepping stone where there needs to be this kind of action?
I think they will. See, what is happening is, one is that Indian administrators, and these are association administrators, are being more and more exposed to foreign talent which comes and plays in the IPL. So there's a fair number of them from Australia, from South Africa, from everywhere, not so much from England.
Yeah.
You spot them, not everybody's playing for their national team, but you say, oh, hey, this guy could be of value. So I think that there is a natural progression that should move in that direction. And the game today is, you know, travel is not such a big hurdle or a burden. It's not costing you an arm and a leg to fly down somebody from England or Johannesburg or Perth or wherever. You will find that there'll be a lot of migration of players to and fro. Maybe they'll become, you know, the journeymen of cricket in the future. They'll play half a season here, they'll play half a season somewhere else. But that's how it's happening in other sports.
Right.
You know?
Right. Right. Chandresh, how do you see this progression? You know, Ranji Trophy itself or Dilip Trophy itself becoming more attractive because of all these players coming, then going on to the next level, which could be a one day or a T20, and then, of course, first class Test cricket. I mean, are you seeing this sort of a linear progression in the way we are seeing it here?
I think it starts from putting the primacy of Test cricket right at the top, as in driving on the point that Test cricket is what drives the sport. And if the powers that be or the administrators put that at the top, then you will find decisions on overseas players coming and playing Ranji Trophy and Dilip Trophy happening that much easily. We forget the point that in 2003-04, a certain Kevin Peterson was first spotted in India when BCCI used to allow one overseas team to play in the Dilip Trophy. It was here in India where he played, he scored runs, and that's how he was catapulted into the England one-day side first, later that year in 2004, and then in 2005. Indian cricket did not leverage that much the way we could have. We had England A team playing 3 seasons of Dilip Trophy cricket. We never had any kind of outreach program by BCCI to go and build on it and get people to come and watch the match. Imagine shouting at the top of the voice saying that Monty Panesar is playing in Baroda, and there was no attempt made to popularize or shout about the fact that these players are playing in this particular tournament. We've done that in the past. We've allowed the players to come and play, but we've not tried to capitalize on that the way we should have. I think it can happen, but it has to happen. It needs a huge change in the mindset where the thought is that the Test cricket is the pinnacle of the format, and it's the real thing, and everything flows from there. If we make that change in mindset,
right, so
everything else will happen.
And that's where I'm guessing we are also facing a hurdle, because Test cricket is not necessarily the pinnacle of the game.
I think I agree with Chandresh that the mindset needs to change, especially at the topmost levels of the ICC and the BCCI and all the respective boards. But the fact is that your Ranji Trophy is there 3 and 4 day matches. Your Duleep Trophy is 4 or 5 day matches. So you have not reduced those tournaments to 1 day or 20 overs. Still those tournaments exist. I think it's important. What is happening is that you find that Indian players especially are not showing enough staying power in the Test matches. Especially when we play overseas, matches are getting over in 3 days, 3.5 days, because our guys just don't have the wherewithal. And these are international players from India.
Right.
The international players have come from a domestic system where also there's not enough emphasis because your high quality players are not playing. You're not allowing, or the other.
So you're saying the entire supply chain is weak. So therefore,
exactly.
what you end
the
up
rigor,
with is,
the rigor and the in the domestic system needs to be far better.
Okay, but would that happen only if we were to conceptually prioritize first class cricket? I mean, Test cricket at the top, or you think might happen even otherwise?
No, I think Test cricket at the top is a very big. If the aim and the ambition is to play Test cricket and play it well, then obviously it just flows down. If the ambition is to go and play T20 well and make a lot of money and get instant fame, then your priorities change, because then you want to play well for 10, 12 overs, not for a day to save a match. Saving a match does not even fit into the concept of a T20 or an ODI game. But in Test cricket, the demands are, vastly different.
Right. Okay. So having said that, since at least in our little group of 3, we're in agreement on this subject, what's next? What's the next step? What could we do? Let's say, I think we've lost this season, I'm assuming.
Yes.
But maybe we've got another one. I mean, what the next one?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've lost the season to the extent that it's not a policy that you have to announce before the start of the season. This is something that could be decided. The AGM hasn't taken place, for instance. The working committee of the BCCI could still meet and decide, yes, we will. In fact, there's no ban. So the state association, somebody says, okay, I want to hire somebody halfway through the season, you can do it.
Okay, great.
So that's not a restriction. Largely what you'll find is that players from England, the West Indies and Sri Lanka are available at this point in time, because this is not their domestic season. The Australians, but Australia produces so many cricketers of high caliber and quality that you can get some players who don't fit into their own teams to come and play.
Okay. Chandresh, do you agree? So, I mean, since we have no other restriction or constraint, we can, most state associations could actually start inviting cricketers right away if they so wished?
Yeah, I agree. Maybe it's someone like a Simon Katich who's just retired, or some of the other players like Graham Swan, like Mr. Ayaz Memon mentioned. More importantly, I think, as Mr. Memon mentioned in the earlier part of the chat, if our Indian players who are the regular Indian stars are able to find time and play this Ranji Trophy, then that will be the biggest boon for the sport, and that'll be the stepping stone or the first step in getting the overseas players to come and play in India. Remember, MS Dhoni has not played for Jharkhand or Bihar since 2005. Since the time he played for India in 2004-05, he's not played any sort of domestic cricket for Jharkhand, and the only domestic match that he's played was in 2008. Irani Cup match, and that too when India was preparing for an important Test series against Australia. So if the captain sets the tone, that will sort of have a cycle stand effect, like Mr. Memon's friend Sidhu would say, and that would set off a good omen for us to look at the next step of getting in the overseas players.
Right. So one more question, Ayaz. What incentive would the foreign players have to play in Indian domestic cricket?
Money.
Okay.
apart from the challenge of playing in Indian conditions, so some of them could want to hone their own skills. Chandresh mentioned about Kevin Peterson, the young Kevin Peterson, 12 years back. Also, Alistair Cook, the current England captain, cut his teeth here virtually in India. So there is a lot of things that, in the old days, the English guys used to go out to the Caribbean islands, to Australia, to scout for talent, which would go and play in county cricket. That's how Viv Richards went to Somerset,
right?
And Andy Roberts went, Hampshire. Here, our guys can do the same. our cricket associations are wealthy enough to do, some kind of adventurism. I think they need.
Right. Okay. Chandresh, what's your sense? I mean, is there a further inducement that needs to be offered, or are the sort of vast playing pitches of India a good enough attraction?
That's a good enough attraction, and also we must remember that the county sides are constantly looking to improve and send sides to India. They used to spend a lot of time here in Bombay at the Cricket Club of India, and to learn how to play at our own game in 2012 in India. So I think that's an incentive that instead of coming in having long hours of net practice, they can actually play matches and learn how to play spin, learn the art of playing on Indian pitches, and get better at that. And who knows, maybe beat India.
Yeah. Right. Okay, Ayaz, one more question. Will the involvement of international cricketers from Vishwanath improve the playing conditions, which is more important? Most domestic cricket is played on flat wickets, which are not of international repute. Will that change?
No, I mean, just getting foreign players is not going to improve the conditions, or
except that it'll put moral pressure on everyone too.
No, and I think also sometimes the conditions may not be so bad, but your players are not skilled enough to make use of those conditions. Now, those skills could improve, whether it's batting or bowling. I mean, I saw, almost the entire domestic season last year, going to every match virtually. It's not that the matches were played on completely flat tracks. I saw Maharashtra beat Mumbai at the Wankhede on a pitch which had a lot of life in it for fast bowlers. And the Pune bowlers beat us because they had the better bowlers. So it's not that they have lifeless pitches everywhere. But sometimes you got bowlers who don't have the skill or the advice or the mentoring to go and make best use of those conditions.
Which comes back to the point that I think both of you mentioned, which is that we need fast bowlers to come and spice
fast
up.
Fast bowlers are certainly, I mean, that's one obvious need that Indian cricket has. But increasingly going ahead, I think spin bowlers. Well, no Indian spin bowlers taking wickets overseas. We are really struggling.
Right.
So those are
therefore the more critical the need to improve the quality of the pipeline.
The bowling is, if you don't take 20 wickets, you can't win a test match.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
As simple as that. Okay, right. So we also obviously spoke to some youngsters out on the streets of Mumbai, as always, when we pose a cricket question, and this is what they had to say.
Bravo. Please give.
Kevin Peterson.
Kerala and
Kolkata.
Right, there you are. So, as always, our youngsters seem to be pretty well informed.
Yeah, very well informed about everything. I thought, Dwayne Bravo, many people might not, because normally you would say Darren Sammy or Dinesh Ramdin, because they are the other captains also.
Correct.
And also Kevin Peterson's autobiography. So
yeah, which I think all of us are now. Have you read it already? Or?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay, so we will, and I'm sure we will talk about it.
We'll talk about it. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much, Chandresh. Thank you, Ayaz, and from all of us here at the CricketOMania team. Thanks for watching. We're going to be back tomorrow same time.